Good morning, afternoon, or evening, everyone. My name is Elivaras, and welcome back to another episode of Let's Learn Root. Today, we are here for the final tutorial that we can do for the next little while, until the next expansion releases on digital anyways, which is the Underworld expansion, specifically the Corvid Conspiracy. Last time, we learned how to play the Underground Duchy, and I imparted some of the little knowledge that I did have about properly piloting the faction. And today we are going to learn how to play the Corvid Conspiracy. Now, the Corvids are a very interesting faction. Unfortunately, they are the weakest faction, generally, in competitive play, because of how easy it is to count how many points they get and to actually stop them from earning points on their turn. However, against an inexperienced table who doesn't know how to deal with them, which, to be honest, it's not that hard to know how to deal with them, but against people that aren't really paying attention, it's probably the faction, other than the Keepers in Iron, which are not on the digital platform, they're the faction that can race the fastest right after them. So if they're left alone, they can absolutely breakneck speed to 30, but you're not going to see that very often. But anyways, let's get into the Corvids. Welcome, Initiate. Today marks your induction into the great Corvid Conspiracy, the true power pulling the strings in this woodland war. To succeed as a member of the Corvid Conspiracy requires careful planning and the utmost secrecy. Our foes will never see us coming as we spread our plots far and wide across the woodlands. So we're up against our fellow birds here, but we are crows, which we're trying to determine that crows are better. So during setup, our initial foothold in the woodlands is established by placing a warrior in one of each clearing suit. So they're directing us one mouse, one bunny, one fox. Now the games can really begin. In Birdsong, you may spend a card from your hand to place one warrior in each clearing matching its suit. So we spend a mouse card and we get a crow in every mouse clearing. Now, it should be noted that we do only have 15 crows in supply. So you're like, oh my gosh, so much recruiting, but then after a few turns of it, you're running up to the supply limit. In Daylight, we may take up to 3 of the following actions: move, battle, plot, or trick. Let's start with what we Corvid do best, plotting. So Corvids can replace Corvid warriors with plots. We have a variety of plots at our disposal. Extort the Eerie to improve our flow of cards. So there's 4 different plots. You can put down an extortion, a snare, a raid, and a bomb. The plots all end up being face down when you put them down, and nobody else knows what they are. And then on your next turn, you can flip the plot to perform its effect. So when revealed, you take a random card from each player who has any pieces in its clearing, and then while revealed, you draw an extra card in the evening. So extorts are really, really nice to get out very early in the game, and you almost always want to put out an extort as your first plot. However, there is a Corvid mechanic that can actually get in the way of this, and it's one of the things that makes the Corvid so easily stoppable, but I'm sure we'll get into that later. A snare, while revealed, enemy pieces cannot be placed in or moved from its clearing. Very interesting plot. You can actually, with this one, completely snare lock factions pretty much out of the game until you decide they can play again. For example, the Eerie, if they only have 1 roost left, and you are you have a snare on that roost, they cannot place their recruits there, which I believe means they turmoil. But even if it doesn't, they also can't move out of the clearing either, because you can't move from the clearing, and since move comes before battle, they can't battle at first. So you're actually just basically perma-turmoiling the Eerie. But I believe recruit will turmoil them in that scenario. So there's some really interesting stuff with this that can happen. Raid, when removed, place 1 warrior in each adjacent clearing. It actually does nothing upon being flipped, other than give you points. That's how you get the bulk of your points as the Corvids, is by flipping plots until the late game anyways. So you flip the raid, potentially just get points from it, but it does nothing until it's actually removed from the board. And then the bomb, when revealed, remove all enemy pieces in its clearing, then remove this token. So we're going to go ahead and put down the extort. The Eerie can see a plot was hatched, but they won't know the type of plot until you choose to reveal it, which is shown by just these crates and boxes. It's very cute, little Corvid popping out of it. Direwolf did a great job with the art for these factions. Plotting requires sacrifice. Your first plot of the turn costs you 1 warrior in its clearing. Each successive plot of the turn will require 1 warrior more than the last. So if I want to plot again, I would have to get rid of 2 Corvid warriors. Now this is only per turn. So the next turn comes around, it resets back to 1. So he's trying to get us to consolidate our warriors. Realistically, we would want to probably protect this plot because the Eerie might walk in and just smack it. So this isn't quite ideal, but just like the cats, the Corvids have a 3 actions per turn economy. However, they do get an interesting evening action, which we'll see later, where they can actually choose to not draw cards in the evening and take an extra action. You can see the birds are coming in here. They're not actually battling, so we're going to get kind of saved here, not lose this plot. Your plots on the map contribute the suit of their clearing towards crafting during birdsong. This is extremely important. The Corvids are, since they're not a very strong faction, they do really well when you can craft a ton. You can get a lot of good crafted improvements. You can craft a lot of items, just get as many points as possible outside of flipping plots, because you're not going to be allowed to flip a plot in the end game. So generally when you're placing down plots in the early to mid game, you want to be really considering A, how isolated they are so they don't get killed immediately, and then B, what the suit of the clearing you're plotting in is, because if you plot in a suit of a clearing, you want to be making sure that you can like craft with that plot. You know, I don't want to be plotting, oh, fox is out of the way, let's just plot in fox, but then my hand is full of bunny or mouse craftables. But because I have 1 plot in a mouse clearing, I can craft a gently used knapsack. Next, you can reveal plots in clearings where you have at least 1 warrior. And this is very important. If you have 1 plot and 1 warrior and your warrior gets killed, that actually stops you from flipping the plot that turn, because you have to flip in birdsong. And as soon as you get to daylight, you can't flip anymore. So after the flip step comes before the recruit step in birdsong. So I'm given the option to flip, and if I have no warriors, I can't flip even if I was then to recruit, because I'm already past the flip step. So you can reveal plots in clearings you have at least 1 warrior. Start by revealing your extortion plot to steal a card. It will also allow me to draw an extra card in the evening while extortion is on the board. So if I have 2 extortion tokens on the board, I get to draw 2 extra cards in the evening, which is very strong. One thing to note, the Corvids have a supply of 2 plots per in the digital version. In tabletop, I believe they also do have 2 per, but there are some community experiments with giving them more than 2 to make things a little bit easier for them. In fact, the current winter tournament that's going on is actually experimenting with giving them 3 of each plot. When you reveal a plot, you score 1 victory point for each revealed plot token on the map. So there was no revealed plot tokens on the map, so I score a base of 1, and then for every revealed plot token that already exists, I score an additional point. So if I have 3 revealed plots and I flip a 4th one, I get 1 point plus 3, 1 for each revealed plot. I stole Favor of the Mice. So let's discard this to recruit again. For your first daylight action, move your warriors into the Eerie starting roost to prepare for a new plot. So they want us to basically get up right close and personal and threaten the Eerie. So, place a raid plot where you moved your warriors. If it is removed in an attack, you place a warrior in an adjacent clearing. So raid's an interesting plot because you sometimes maybe bait the Eerie or a different faction into like killing your plot, and then it actually kind of helps you by spawning warriors. The downside, of course, is that you don't get to flip it for points, so it kind of sets you a bit behind. And it wants us to remove 2 warriors. to place a snare. And yeah, it's teaching us about Exert here. So in the evening, you may skip drawing cards to Exert for an extra action. We have more to accomplish, so let's do it. Specifically, we need to guard this plot so that we can actually flip it, which is what it's telling us to do. But again, in a game, in a normal game, leaving your plots right next to an enemy force, extremely undefended, is probably a bad idea. All right, so the area are going to take their turn, and it's probably going to teach us about exposing next. What is this plot you have hatched near our roost? It cannot stand, I say. It must be exposed. Here we go. Any time before drawing cards in the evening, and I will say this means any form of card draw in the evening. So if you have a card called Charm Offensive crafted, which allows you to draw a card in the evening, that also counts. Anytime before drawing cards in evening, an enemy may try to expose your plot by correctly guessing what the plot is. As the cost to do so, they must reveal a card matching the suit of its clearing. They also have to have a faction piece in the clearing that they're trying to expose in. So they can't just randomly expose a plot on the other side of the map. If I have a plot in a clearing that has an enemy warrior or building or just piece in general in it, they can choose to expose my plot. If they are correct, you must discard your plot, ignoring its effect. This includes raids, so if a raid is exposed, nothing happens. If they are wrong, you get their revealed card. I bet you conniving Corvid laid a snare in our roost. But they guessed wrong, so we get the Cobbler card. The squabbling Eerie fell for our bluff. Their guess is wrong, and we get to take their card. And they're battling. Is it going to roll a 1? Aha. An unflappable defense. Your embedded agent's ability adds a hit to defending battles where you have a hidden plot token. This is very interesting, and it actually makes attacking Corvid, like revealed Corvid plots, actually pretty dangerous when they've got some good Corvid warriors next to it, because you can potentially take a ton of damage. Like if you go in against a plot that's got 3 warriors and it's not revealed, you could potentially roll like 3-3 and take 4 hits, which is disgusting. We have nothing to craft this turn, so we skip to revealing plots. Reveal your snare to enable its warrior trapping effect and gain 2 points. So we get the snare. And remember, you score 1 point for each revealed plot token on the map. So it's basically saying at the time the plot is revealed, after it's been revealed, you're scoring based on revealed plots. So the more revealed plots you keep defended, the greater your scoring potential. The unfortunate reality in a game is that you just don't really have the warrior count to defend all of your plots. You only have 15, and it's honestly not very hard for a faction to get through 3 warriors or 2 if they really want to. Like, it's really easy to shut Corvids down in the late game and just make it very hard for them to keep their revealed plots protected, so they actually gain points when flipping, a significant amount anyways. But also it's hard for them to flip new plots at all, because you can walk in and that exposure effect is extremely powerful, because factions that draw a lot of cards can take huge advantage of it. Like, you know, imagine I'm the Otters and I draw, you know, I get a bunch of funds and I draw like 4 cards start of my turn, and let's say I get like 3 mouse cards. I can just sail right into this clearing when it's unrevealed and just be like, you know, it's a bomb, it's an extort, it's a raid, whatever, and I've got like a 3 out of 4 chance to get it. So between being able to just guess, and then, you know, let's say you're in a great position and the whole table is starting to work together to make sure you can't win. At that point, it becomes even easier because they can coordinate using their cards to guess your plots. And since there's only 4 options, that makes it pretty easy. Or not pretty easy, but it makes it relatively easy. And additionally, because we only have 2 of each plot, if I already have 2 plots on the board of one type, it makes it even easier to guess what it is, because you're like, oh, an option's eliminated. So when the table really sets their mind to stopping you, it's really easy to. They can send some people into expose. You can have a backup of like, oh, we'll just battle the plot if we can't expose it. It's so easy to be prevented from flipping. You flip our raid, remember it does nothing unless it is removed. So we're going to recruit once again to really wants us to keep recruiting Demos, which is kind of funny. When placing a plot, you must choose a clearing that doesn't already have one. You cannot plot multiple times in the same clearing. Place the bomb plot. See if we can make things go boom. Use your next action to consolidate your warriors. So it's getting us to move it over here. Finally, we'll trick the Eyrie into turmoil. Use trick to swap the location of your revealed raid and snare plots of the Eyrie. Put a bunny recruit into their decree. And as I mentioned earlier, it turns out that this will indeed turmoil them because they cannot fulfill their recruit step. The snare will keep them from being able to move out of that clearing or recruit warriors in it. That ought to ruffle some feathers and send them into turmoil. The despot has failed us. Time to bring in a true leader, the commander. Now, I will say, plotting that bomb made absolutely zero sense because we can't flip it. We just left it there. Like, it's pretty much free cardboard for someone if they wanted to. So if this map was filled more, like someone just be able to walk in, either guess it or just smack it because it's defenseless. Now, because it is defenseless, but it's an unflipped plot, so it would still... it's an unflipped plot, so it would still deal an extra hit anyways, but because it is a defenseless token, it still gets hit instantly with an extra defenseless hit. So we can't reveal our bomb plot because we don't have a warrior in there, but don't fret, it's better to wait to reveal a bomb and clearing some enemy pieces to destroy anyways. Bombs sound like a lot of fun for the Corvids, and they can be, but the problem you generally run into is that if you ever do plot on top of someone's like big structures, they will generally guess bomb. They'll either kill it, or they'll guess, or they'll do what's called bomb insurance, which is just in case, I'm going to guess bomb. It's one of those things where it's like, you can try and play mind games with the Corvids to be like, oh, you know, they'll, you know, like maybe they planted a snare because they want me to think it's a bomb. But the reality is whenever your people are playing against the Corvids, they will generally say, okay, what is the most damaging plot this could be? And let's make sure it's not that. So people aren't going to mess around with the mind games and be like, oh, maybe they didn't plot a bomb on top of me, so I'm going to guess snare. And then, you know, oh my gosh, I'm incorrect. They will generally just straight up guess the card or guess the plot that they think will impact them the most and they don't want it to be, which generally is bomb. So the amount of times you'll actually get a satisfying bomb off is very rare. As a result, generally you don't want to be plotting bomb as much. And the other problem with plotting bomb is that because the token disappears as soon as it flips, because you explode, you destroy everything, and then the token disappears. So you don't get that scaling point total by plotting bombs. You know, I get 3 plots out, I flip the bomb, get 4 points. If I plot again on the turn I flip the bomb, the next turn I'm still only going to get 4 points because the bomb plot disappeared because it was used. And it's the only plot that does that because it's a bomb and destroys everything and then disappears. The other ones stay on the board until they're removed forcefully. With your enemy's leadership in disarray, it's perfect time for a show of strength. Move your warriors to take the battle to the Eyrie. So we're moving additional warriors in. What nimble movement you have. Like the Vagabond, Corvid warriors move regardless of clearing rule restrictions. This is a very important part of playing the Corvids, and if you didn't have this, it would actually pretty much be impossible to play them at all. They have a trait called Nimble, which just says you can move regardless of who rules your clearing. So really, really nice for the Corvids. So we're going to go ahead and battle. So one of the things you may be thinking now after hearing me talk about the Corvids is, okay, well, if they're never allowed to flip a plot in the endgame, how do they actually win? This is the age-old conundrum of playing the Corvids, where you kind of get, you can generally get 2 bursts of points. You can, with your early plots and such, you can flip for up to like 8 to like 12 points or somewhere around there, and then you can get another flip sometimes to get up to like 22, 24. The problem after that becomes no one will ever let you flip a plot again. Generally, no matter how much you try or how smart you are. I have played a bunch of games as the Corvids where I think there's no way they can get to this plot, like it's far enough away, and I have another plot that they need to get through first. The table finds a way. It's almost always possible to get to your plots and get rid of them. So usually the way to play Corvids in the endgame is you go for as much cardboard as possible. You just begin crafting, or cardboard and crafting as possible. So you forget about plotting. You spend all your actions to just smack cardboard for points. Craft if you can, but you're unlikely to be able to craft because your plots are probably destroyed by the table. So yeah, that's really what you want to be doing in the end game against more experienced players, is just fighting for the win. And it'll be a slow grind, but that's where the table talk also comes in. Generally, playing Corvids does actually require a decent amount of table talk, because you want to tell people, like, you want to convince people, you know, to kind of work with you and stabilize the table, because the Corvids, you're never going to win a race if people are removing your plots, which they probably will in order to get extra points. So one other thing to note about exposure is, yes, it removes your plot, but because it's also a piece of cardboard, it gives people points. So people are actually incentivized to remove your plots via exposure through gaining points, and generally it can be a really easy point that doesn't take up an action. So if you're in a race, it's almost impossible to actually win the race by flipping plots, because people just remove them for points and to stop you from winning. So you need to try and slow down the game as much as you can. So what we're going to do is go ahead and move a warrior over to here. I'm going to move 2. Actually, we can let them kill the raid, honestly. They're probably going to kill the raid, which will spawn a Corvid warrior in each adjacent clearing. And what that'll mean is it'll allow me to flip the bomb, which is kind of funny. So maybe I don't actually care about exerting that much. We'll just skip. Hit that plot. Hit that plot. See if they do it. No, they're going to come and just smack this random bird. All right. I was kind of hoping they'd smack the raid. Okay, so it's time to just finish off the AI, who probably has no idea what they're doing, and just, like, go ham on placing plots. So we're going to craft code breakers. Why not? Bird cards are really nice as the Corvids because it allows you to choose what suit you want to recruit in. So I'm going to recruit, once again, in mouse. Because I just want to plot a bunch. So I'm going to go here, and here, and there. So I'm going to do is I'm going to plot here and plot a raid. I'm going to plot... That's actually kind of dangerous that this bird is here. We'll see what he has in his hand real quick. Okay, nothing too crazy. We're going to plot a extort. And then we're going to go ahead and move another Corvid over there to kind of defend it against this one bird, because he's going to get an extra hit. And then next turn, we'll flip 3 tokens for the win if we are given the opportunity to. Not really paying attention to crafting suits, just the suits that already have Corvids in them to make it easier to plot, so I have to move a whole bunch. This looks like he may fight. Oh, he's going to remove the raid. Excellent. This is exactly what we want him to do. Because now He's just going to get kind of shafted. Moves the raid, gets a point, yay, but now I get the Corvid Warriors, which is really nice. So people would never allow you to do this in a real game, but now, and one thing to note again about bomb, if you flip it first, you don't want to flip it first because it removes itself from the map when it's flipped. So if you want to get the most points, you flip everything but bomb first. We'll flip a raid for 3, flip this for 4, and then flip, well, we can't flip the bomb because we win. But yeah. So there we go. That is the Corvid Conspiracy. They're honestly a super fun faction, especially when you're playing like in real life in the actual board game or just this version with friends. It's so funny. He's not animating. Okay, now he is. If you play this version with friends or on Tabletop Simulator or something, they're super fun to play because they just cause chaos. And even if they're not the strongest faction and you probably won't win with them, if you go in with the mindset of like, you know, I might not win, but I'm going to have a great time, it just becomes a super fun game because everyone's just like trying to guess like whatever you're doing, and you're like just wreaking havoc and sowing the seeds of dissent in enemy forces and stuff. It's just so funny, and they're very fun to play. But yeah, that is going to wrap up our Let's Learn Root series for the time being, because we have now finished all of the tutorials in the game. And next time, well, I don't know what route video I'm making after this, but I am in the midst of working on this gigantic otters guide, which you'll see at some point. If I get another route video out before this, actually, that does remind me, I am going to be doing recaps of the winter tournament semifinal rounds with the tournament host, hopefully. So stay tuned for those. And then after that, I imagine you'll see the otters guide, or another route video before then, a different one if the otters guide ends up taking too long. But yeah, that's it for me. So for now, I'd like to thank you all for watching. Have a great rest of your day. Cheers, guys.